KILR Killer Game.
Hello gamers, simmers, and pilots, I am the KILR Gamer, and welcome to the tour around the world, or semi-part of the world, with Microsoft Flight Simulator 3. So, here we are, sitting on a yellow fuel box, looking at a white box. That's racist. Let's talk about our flight. So here is our SubLogic map, and where we left off, where we are right now, is right here at Peoria, Greater Peoria. And where we're going to be flying this way towards Galesburg and up to Moline, to the airport of Quad City. Now, what is interesting about this is that I've had some trouble actually locating this airport with Flight Simulator 2 and Flight Simulator 4. Maybe Flight Simulator 5 because I had to use custom content. I don't know. It's been a while since I did that video. But what I do know is that the airport is not really sitting here. It's more or less sitting... It's kind of sitting right there where the VOR is sitting at. It's real close to the river. I think it's there. It might actually be sitting right about here, but I know it's close to the river. And when we were doing this on Flight Simulator 2, the Microsoft version, maybe the SubLogic version, I don't remember, but we got to the VOR before we got to the airport. So it's almost as if this VOR and this airport are in the wrong spot. Like the VOR should be right here where the airport is at, and the airport should be right there. That's what it seems like to me. And I think we should try that. Considering that these scenery disks are pretty much Flight Simulator 2 scenery disks that have been converted to scenery files, SCN files, to be used in Flight Simulator 3 and 4. It should be pretty much the same experience. So we'll tune into Galesburg and we'll fly there, and then we'll tune into Moline, which I believe is going to take us right there, and then the airport will be over here for Quad City. So that's what we're going to do, and we'll see what happens. So this shouldn't be too hard. I don't think we need to really set any special radials or headings or anything like that. We'll just tune into the actual VOR. So 109.8 will be Galesburg, and we'll just, well, let's see. That's right, I can't click and hold this. Ah, this is so annoying. Let's see if we can get that centered. Okay, that's the direction we want to go for that. And Quad City is 114.4. There we go. So I got 57 miles to Moline. And if we click nav 1 here, we can change that over to nav 2. We got 37 miles to that. So that will work. We'll go ahead and turn on the plane. turn down the volume of my ears because it gets to be a little I don't think this had an ATIS. I can't remember. It's like I'm having to take breaks in between. Oh, wait a minute. No, I think this one does. So, like, I'm having to take breaks in between episodes because I'm moving back and forth between simulators and recording different ones. Yeah, I think this is it. Greater Peoria, information Charlie. Zulu weather, visibility 10, temperature 53, wind 0 at 0, altimeter 29.9, landing party runway 4. You have Charlie. Alright. I was actually going to be adding real weather, and what you see is actually the real weather. I had looked it up, and it was clear skies. I'll kind of show you what I'm referring to here, just in case you might be interested in such a thing. So there is this site. First, I had gone to airnav.com, and you can't really see it. This is a picture from SubLogic Flight. That's another series that I'm doing. Okay, bring this over here. So right here is the meter file. This is from airnav.com. So basically what I did is I highlighted that, and then I went over to this site, which is flightutilities.com /MR online, and I think that stands for meter reader. And so I just pasted that into here, hit decode, and boom, I've got my weather right here. So winds were calm, so I didn't have any winds that I need to put in there. Well, there's no visibility in Flight Simulator 3, and right here, no clouds. So yeah, so accurate weather. All right, we want runway 4. I'm trying to get this thing to stop blinking around here. Okay, so that's runway 4. Okay, that's going to be similar to what we did on Flight Simulator 2 then. There is a turn-off over here that we took. Shouldn't be similar, it should be exactly the same. This is the same scenery. I was testing my brakes. I've been sitting there doing videos on ProPilot 98, 99, and ProPilot USA, SubLogic Flight, and the controls for the brake and for rudders is just, it's a little bit different. So when you're bouncing back and forth between these simulators, it gets to be a little challenging. I'll have to say though, the SubLogic Flight, that one, or SubLogic Flight or SubLogic Flight Lite, that one kind of grows on you a bit, because it's got the whole United States, whereas like for Flight Simulator 2 and 3 you're limited to the scenery disks, and you're missing scenery disks 8 and 10 because they were never made. So you don't have the complete US. But on the other hand, you do have Hawaii and Japan and Western Europe. And those don't work on Microsoft Flight. The Great Britain collection does, though. There's a SubLogic Great Britain collection. Now, the experiences that we're going to have between Flight Simulator 3 and Flight Simulator 4 are going to be different. The two sims... Whoa. The two sims look identical. 4 has a few more options on it, and plus it's more open to third-party developers and user-created content. You've got the adventures that you can create, where you can add air traffic control and use of the transponder, all through a basic program that you can either write yourself if you know the programming code, or you can get this Pilot's Power Tools, which comes with a flight planner. You create your flight plan and then you convert it through Power Tools, and it creates an adventure file. Think of it as an early version of ProFlight 98 and ProFlight 2000, and ProFlight Emulator, which is what it turned into for Flight Simulator 2004 and FSX. Works on P3D too. But with the programming, there's a lot more flexibility because you can go in there and dig into it a lot more and really customize it as far as choosing which voices you wanted to use, and randomizing certain things. And that's what I've been doing for this separate series called Flight Simulator 4 Adventures. So if you haven't looked at that, be sure to check that out. There's a separate playlist for that. I've gone far beyond what I think anyone has ever done with Flight Simulator 4. And I say that because we have a lot of access to stuff now that we didn't back then, such as the ATC. So like we can get ATC chatter files from liveatc.net. I can create ATC communication from a pilot to a control tower by using the voices and stuff that came with like ProFlight 2000/ProFlight emulator, along with what was done for Radar Contact, along with the edit voice pack for FSX and P3D, and piece together phrases and then record that and then use that for the adventure. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of work, but the results are amazing. Now, of course, when you write the adventure, it's going to only be good for that one particular flight. So unless you want to just redo that flight over and over again. So in my case, I'm actually doing that and doing a recording of it, so that way people such as yourself can sit back and watch it and, you know, enjoy and experience an awesome retro flight without having to do all that yourself. Man, are we ever going to get to the end of the runway here? Where is it? Oh, I know where we are. Okay. We are getting to a runway. It's not the one that we want. It's the one we landed on, though. We'll just cut across the grass here. We're going to have to do that anyway. Okay. So this taxiway leads into the runway that we actually landed on straight ahead. There's another runway right over here to the left, and that's runway 4. So that's the one that we're going to be taking off from. But anyway, I was talking about a unique experience between the Flight Simulator 3 and Flight Simulator 4. So Flight Simulator 3 and 4, they can both utilize the SubLogic Scenery Disks. However, one thing that Flight Simulator 4 has that Flight Simulator 3 cannot use is the SubLogic USA East and West collection, which was made, I think, with the SubLogic ATP, Airline Transport Pilot, in mind, but it was also made compatible for Flight Simulator 4, which is what I use for Flight Simulator 4 Adventures. And it's definitely better scenery than, you know, these old scenery discs. So while I'll be using that for Flight Simulator 4, we can use the actual original scenery discs on Flight Simulator 3, and we'll get, you know, a little bit of a different experience out of it. Try hitting the right key for the brake. Alright. We're all set to go, so actually, let's set our autopilot. We should do that. I think 4000 should do it. So let's see. Autopilot set F. We'll do 4000. There we go. I think we're all set now. There's our fill box over there. Taking a look at the scenery. That's Peoria. The river is off in that direction. Let's do a flyby by the river. Do a little bit of sightseeing. Use your imagination. Us old armchair pilots, we had to use our imagination. Oof. I get the shakes with the that engine sound. Let's see, there's the river. And if we were to follow that river, it would take us to Kankakee. It would wind around and take us to Kankakee. So I think it might be an interesting VFR flight to do sometime. We're going to go ahead and start going to our destination here. Going to go ahead and hook up with our heading of 292 or something close to it. I believe that road there is going to lead off to Moline. Actually, no, I'm not correct on that. That's actually going to go to Galesburg. So I think at this point we can just go ahead and follow that road, and it will take us right there. There's Peoria Airport, Greater Peoria. I changed our DME to nav2 so we can get an idea of how far away Galesburg is going to be. It's about 36 miles. I think we can go ahead and tone down our engine. And we'll go over and turn on the autopilot. Autopilot is set. I think we're good from here. I mean, we've got VFR going on here. We've got some IFR going because we're tuned in to nav2, and we're centered and ready to head there. 33 miles to go. All right, well, I guess we'll go ahead and pull the old Microsoft Flight Simulator 3 book back out. It's interesting. Tandy 1000 series keyboard layout. That's what my little card here says. I didn't think this was for the Tandy. I guess I'll look at this box a little closer here. For Tandy/IBM personal computers and compatibles. Now it says PC compatible, version 3.0. I would like to get Flight Simulator 1 working. Heck, I'd like to be able to get Flight Simulator 2 working on an actual PC with the scenery disks. The problem with the emulation is, I think because the nature of the later scenery disks were copy protected, when they made images of it, some of the information got lost, and what that's resulted in is missing areas on the actual disk. So there are airports that are missing. It's like you go to the area and boom, it's gone. There's nothing. And I think that's because of the fact that the disk was converted using like teledisk and turned into an image, and the information is missing. So I think the only way to maybe get those airports is to I guess use teledisk to write a 5 1/4 disk and hook it up to your PC. So, and I guess I might be able to get that to work on PC emulator. I don't know. Oh, let's let's see here. Flight controls, Windows. Oh, zoom in and smooth zoom in and smooth zoom out is up and down arrow. Screen center is tab. Interesting. So if we were to... Well, that doesn't look like a zoom. No, that's not zooming. Maybe that's just for Tandy. Okay, well, I think we talked about the three-dimensional window last time. So we're at instrument panel and radio stack. The instrument panel and radio stack window occupies the lower half of the screen. This window may be moved downward by dragging the top of the panel with the mouse or selecting setup windows from the views file. Okay, so can we... Well, I'm clicking it. I can't drag it down though. I made it like disappear. Yeah, I guess it's supposed to work, but this makes room for a larger three-dimensional window or map window. Instruments on the panel and radios in the stack are arranged as they would be in most aircraft. You should see what it looks like on SubLogic Flight Lite. I don't know what design they got going on there. It's based on a Cessna Citation jet. That's what the original plane was, and then they added a few aircraft, but it still has the same design. They just kind of like changed some of the instruments. Instruments on the panel and radios in the stack so styles vary from plane to plane, but Flight Simulator uses the most modern form of each instrument. The 6 primary flight instruments are grouped together in the standardized instrument cluster. In addition to the standardized instrument cluster, the instrument panel includes other instruments, indicators, and radios. You use only a few of these on your first flight. The instruments are described in more detail in Chapter 2, Aircraft Controls. The numbers accompanying the instrument and radio names and descriptions below correspond to the numbers on Figure 1.1. So, where is Figure 1.1? Was it on another page? I guess it was on another page. Okay, that's Figure 1.1. When I can find it. Okay, there you go. There's Figure 1.1. Alright. So obviously, you know, it's what we're looking at. So we're over here in the left corner. The airspeed indicator measures in knots the aircraft speed through the air around it. The airspeed indicator is an air pressure activated gauge. It does not measure ground speed. Attitude indicator, or artificial horizon, right next to it, shows the aircraft's pitch and bank out attitudes. Pitch is the rotation of the plane about its lateral axis, nose up or nose down, and is measured by the center bar of the attitude indicator. So yeah, the center bar here. When the bar is aligned with the horizon, you are flying in straight and level flight. Horizontal markings near the center indicate nose up and nose down pitch angles. Bank is the rolling of a plane on its longitudinal axis. The bank indicator is a small arrow that points to the 10 or -10, -20, -30, -60 Oh, no, not minus. Sorry, just 10, 20, 30, 60, or 90 degree marking at the edge of the attitude indicator. So that's all these little things right here. So this little mark is 90 degrees, and this little mark is 45 degrees, and this little pinky went home, and that one went to the market. But, you know, when the arrow points to the 0 degree mark, that's straight to the top, you are in straight and level flight. The arrow always points to the top of the gauge. The bank marks rotate around the edge of the instrument. Altimeter right next to it. My goodness, look what the autopilot's done. It's got it's got our elevator all the way up. Sometimes that autopilot can be like a dangerous thing. Altimeter measures altitude in feet above sea level. The gauge is operated by atmospheric pressure. The altimeter is read like a clock, with 10 divisions instead of 12. The large hand indicates hundreds of feet above sea level, with increments of 20 feet, and the small hand indicates thousands of feet above sea level. The small marker near the outside of the gauge indicates tens of thousands of feet above sea level. So there's the small one and the large one. I don't know what little one they're talking about. Sea level is not the same as ground level. At an airport with 750 foot elevation, the altimeter registers 750 feet while the plane is sitting on the ground. Barometric pressure changes caused by changes in the weather can cause errors in altitude readings. Pilots must often calibrate this gauge to the barometric pressure of the airspace through which they are flying. That's this tiny little thing in here. Really all we can do is just click A, and that will adjust it. Okay, so ahead of us, that is going to be Galesburg, and that road heading off to the right will go to Moline. Pilots in the U.S. calibrate to the current air pressure at sea level in inches of mercury, while flyers in Europe calibrate the pressure in millibars. Sounds like a candy bar or something, a millibar. Are you hungry? Grab a millibar. At altitudes above 17,999 feet, you must calibrate to standard pressure, which is 29.92 inches of mercury, or 1,013 millibars. That's a lot of candy bars. The knob marked with an A is the altimeter adjustment knob. To adjust barometric pressure to the current correct value, press the A key, or, if using a mouse, point at the knob and click the left mouse button. The barometric pressure is indicated in the small square window, which is this little thing, which you can barely read, but it's there. On Flight Simulator, this window is too small for the digits to be plotted, so the window is shown with fixed pre-designed digits. Well, they are able to fix that later on. Number 4, the turn coordinator. We're now down here in the lower left. Measures turn rate and coordination. No numerical value appears on this gauge. Instead, a single turn rate position is marked by the turn indicator, the small little airplane right here, symbol on the gauge. When the gauge aligns with the L, there's the L, left, or the R, right, a 2-minute turn results. This means that the plane will complete a 360-degree turn in 2 minutes. Oh, that's what it's for. I just figured it tells you how far you're turning. I don't know. The turn coordinator, unlike the turn indicator gauge used in some planes, uses a 35-degree canted gyroscope that reflects both bank and heading changes. Pitch, however, has no effect on the gauge. The turn indicator is also useful for timed turns. The ball in the turn coordinator indicates slip-skid attitude, or aircraft coordination. When the ball is centered, the aircraft's longitudinal axis is parallel to the direction of flight, and the flight is coordinated. Coordinated turns are the safest turns. Some maneuvers, notably slips and skids, are not coordinated. Okay, right ahead is the Galesburg Airport, so we can see that there. Number 5, right next to this, right here, which we need to kind of click. Heading indicator or directional gyro notes the direction of flight. The heading indicator is a gyroscopically controlled compass that, unlike a magnetic compass, has no inherent direction-seeking characteristics. It is much more responsive and steady than the magnetic compass. Using the magnetic compass, calibrate the heading indicator before each flight and a few times an hour while in flight. Yeah, I would say like maybe once every 5 minutes, because if you have that reality thing turned on, it will drift. But yeah, we adjusted it here just a moment ago. So the knob marked with a D is the heading indicator adjustment knob. To set the heading indicator, press the D key, or if using a mouse, point at the knob and click the left mouse button, which is what we did. Always be sure that the magnetic compass has settled down after a turn or climb to a level transition to avoid setting the wrong heading. So basically your compass right here, when you're turning, wait for this thing to stop and actually catch up. Because just because you stop doesn't mean this compass thing is going to stop. So wait for this to stop on whatever heading it's going to be, and then you can sit there and adjust your gyro compass. And lastly, out of these 3, is your vertical speed or rate of climb indicator. That's this right here. Measures rate of climb or descent in hundreds of feet per minute. This gauge operates on air pressure changes and is not adversely affected by absolute barometric pressure. It lags slightly behind the aircraft's responses. Avoid chasing, flying in direct response to the vertical speed indicator to establish a constant altitude. Okay, still got a little bit before we get up there, about 10 miles. So other flight instruments and indicators. Well, here's the magnetic compass. This is a standard magnetic compass. Omni bearing indicator, OBI. That's what this is right here. With glide slope. This is with nav1. A landing approach and general navigational instrument that is used with the nav1 navigation radio to tune into VOR, which stands for Very High Frequency Omnidirectional Range radio beacons. Omni bearing indicator nav2. So here's nav2. It's same as above, but used with the nav2 radio. A glide slope is not available on this OBI. Oh yeah, that's the outer marker. So yeah, this is your OBI. OBI 1, OBI 2. The glide slope is not available on it, but the ADF can be selected to occupy this position. So if you want to do ADF, just go over here, click this M2, or not click it. Where's the box to change the ADF? Ah, okay. I must be thinking of one of the other simulators then. There was like a little box you could check. Maybe it was in Flight Simulator 4. There was a little box you could check on ADF and it would change it. I guess you can't do it on this one. Okay, so yeah, when I was saying omni bearing indicator, that's not these, sorry. I just saw O and I and no. So this is the OBI 1, OBI 2. Clock right here. A standard digital clock that runs in real time and measures hours, minutes, and seconds under 1982 FAA regulations, which was like a century ago. A digital digital presentation qualifies for IFR flight in lieu of an analog sweep second-hand clock. The flight simulator clock is very accurate. You set the clock by clicking the digits with the mouse or by selecting time set from the Enviro menu. So yeah, you can select it here by clicking, or you can go up here to the Enviro menu and set it there. Now we get to the OMI, outer, middle, and inner marker lights. This indicates when your aircraft is over the outer, middle, or inner marker beacons during instrument landing approaches. Then you've got your left fuel tank and your right fuel tank and your oil temperature gauge, your oil pressure gauge, and your tachometer, which is here, RPM right there. All right, and the next section will be about the radios themselves. Kind of looking around here. Okay, let's go ahead and make that turn. Let's go ahead and change this and center that. 336. So you can see I'm not making a coordinated turn. Oh, it says 2 minutes on the bottom there, so that's interesting. Whoops, I overshot. Here's my thing with the auto coordination. I turn auto coordination off so that way I can, when flying with the keyboard on the old simulators, I don't do that with the newer ones. Trying to fly with a keyboard on the newer simulators is crazy. I've tried it. But I have auto coordination turned off so that way I can use the rudder to slightly change my heading if I need to when lining up with the runway. But when I make turns, I don't worry too much about coordinating my turn. I'm just like, beep. Sometimes I'll do like some of the aileron over to the right and move my rudder to the right a little bit too. But I notice it doesn't really affect the turns all that much here. It does tend to affect it in the later simulators when it can, where they can look at flight mechanics a lot. You know, it's able to simulate flight mechanics a lot better. Alright, we got ourselves 26 miles until we get to Moline. Now you saw that we were turning, right? So I'm waiting for this to settle down. Looks like it has. We'll click D, and now this matches this. And we can do another turn here, and we can look at our gyro compass. And we can stop right around 336. There we go. Now we're locked in. We're locked in. We're good to go here. Oh yeah, this is a little bit of a longer flight than a lot of the other ones. Now, if you're a fan of the Amiga computer, the Commodore Amiga computer, the SubLogic Flight Simulator 2 there. Flight Simulator 3 is based off of that. So you'll see a lot of similarities between that simulator and this one here. And since the Amiga Flight Simulator, it never had scenery disks 1 through 6 on the simulator, which really annoyed me. So if you wanted to experience what it might be like with an Amiga with those scenery disks, you could play that here with Flight Simulator 3. Of course, the sound doesn't sound like anything from an Amiga, so if you wanted a sound that was close to that, you would want to play it on Flight Simulator 4 with the sound and graphics upgrade. If you don't have the sound and graphics upgrade, it's going to sound just like this. And if you check out the Flight Simulator 4 World Tour, when I started off the flights, I didn't have the sound and graphics upgrade. That did not happen until we were flying from Champaign to Peoria. And when you hear the engine sound, it's like, it sounds exactly like the Amiga. The benefit is that you get more sounds than what you had on the Amiga. Like, there's sounds for the flaps. There's sounds for the landing gear. When you land, it doesn't sound like an airline coming down on the runway where it's like this big old screech, which doesn't sound like it fits a Cessna at all. It was funny though when I was playing, when I moved from the Commodore 64 to the Amiga on Flight Simulator, and I heard that landing, I was like, oh wow, that's cool. Because I mean, hey, you know, didn't have much to really go on with the Commodore 64 as far as the sounds there. I honestly think that SubLogic could have done a better job with the Commodore 64 version. The colors are kind of washed out. It doesn't really have a richness of color to it. If you look at the SubLogic Flight Simulator 4, like the Apple Flight Simulator 2. And the Commodore 64 has got great sound quality with the SID chip, the chip tune. So they could have done something as far as making a better engine sound than what they did. But also, Flight Simulator 2 came out really early when the Commodore 64 came out, so that's another thing to consider. Okay, you look up ahead here, you can see a river. The airport's going to be up there. Okay. Go and tune into ATIS here. It's 120.65. Or maybe not. Maybe we're not close enough. So if I was to pull up this map again here, remember I was talking about Quad City and stuff. This river right here, you see the mountain? I'm kind of highlighting it. There. That's the Mississippi River. This little river right here is the one that Moline is sitting next to. I'm sorry, Quad City is sitting next to. So, yeah, these things are mixed up. It should be the other way around. So what we're seeing ahead there is the Mississippi. That's going to be the Mississippi River. And we might actually see... Nope, we don't see it just yet. You can see some of it beginning to take shape here. But yeah, it goes off. And we do have ILS for this airport. It's runway 9. So we may go ahead and make use of that. I think I talked about it. I didn't think about it in Flight Simulator 2, so we'll do it on this one. Let's go ahead and change. Let's get that ready here. And we'll change the ILS to 110.5. It's runway 9. So I don't think we're going to get an ATIS message until the airport appears in our scenery. Oh, okay, look at that. So, we at least got DME. So we're 16 miles away from the airport. Now, as far as Moline, do you see that? So the Moline VOR, we're only 10 miles away. But if we tune into the to the ILS, it's 15.6 miles. So you see, they have the VOR and the airport swapped. It should be the other way around. This is why it's interesting to do these same flight plans across the different simulators instead of just, you know, random flights on different simulators. With this, we can actually compare the actual flights and the experience that we have between each of the simulators. It's more than just the graphics. I mean, the graphics are obvious as far as how they look between simulator to simulator. But the experience, though, is a whole nother thing. Like, for example, looking at the Mississippi River. You know, this is an experience. We see the Mississippi River, and it's getting bigger as we get closer to it. We're seeing just how that is here. And that's Moline right up ahead. Now I've already flown this area on FSX and X-Plane, and it was just neat when you're flying this and you work your way up to those simulators. It's just kind of a neat experience. Oh man, when Flight Simulator 2020 comes out and I can start doing the flights on that one, it's gonna be something else. You know, I realize I don't really need to delay the world tour on the Flight Simulator 2020, because I was just going to wait for Megs when they make the airport for that, but I don't really need to do that. I can always go back and do that episode. So I can start off at Chicago O'Hare and follow all the same airports, and then when Megs is finally released, then I can go back, record that flight, and then I can put it appropriately in the playlist. And they're going to be cinematics anyway. I'm not going to do any talking or anything like that on those. I think those simulators, you kind of just want to appreciate everything that's there, you know, like the visuals and the experience with the plane. So it's not something that you want to ruin, like with some dude, you know, in the upper left corner of your screen that just talks and talks and talks and never shuts up. I just do this on these old simulators because, well, it can be kind of boring looking at these graphics after a while. But if we're sitting here just talking and stuff, or I'm talking and you're listening, it's a little different. Not seeing it yet, but I think we'll be good to turn our autopilot off. Okay, yeah, we need to adjust our... Go ahead and bring our flaps down. Let's lower our landing gear. Whoa, I just lifted our landing gear. That's weird. I could have sworn Okay, I guess the landing gear was down this whole time. I thought I could have sworn I put it up. Maybe I held on to the key and went up and it went back down. There's the airport. I see it. It's over there. Can we get an ATIS message? There he goes. Moline, Quad City Information, India, Zulu, weather, visibility 10, temperature 53, wind 0, altimeter, landing departing runway 6. Advise control and you have India. Oh, it's not going to tell us that ILS is available? Well, I'm going to land on runway 9. That's close to 6. I'm keeping our vertical somewhat close to the center there. That's our glide slope. That way we can have ourselves a good rate of descent on our way down. We've got our airspeed down to 80 knots. So I think all in all that's pretty decent. Now we're just waiting for our horizontal indicator to move over so that way we know when to start our turn. So look at that, we can see more of the Mississippi River there. I'm going to change our course a bit here. I'm going to change this over to 360. Straight north. I think we can see a little bit of the split of the river. Maybe not yet. Just remember we saw the Mississippi River went off and then it kind of forked off and went through Moline. I think I see the runway. We'll go ahead and make our turn now. There's a runway coming off at an angle there, and I believe that's the one that we want. Ooh. Need to adjust our pitch. Got to get our vertical indicator back up there. There we go. You see the fork? There's the river right there. Let's do one more thing of flaps here. We've got our asterisk-shaped airport, where all runways converge in the center, which does not sound like a very safe airport, but okay, landing gears down. Flaps are nearly down. I don't think we need to put them any further than that. This is where I start using the rudder. Did we get any markers on this one? Outer, middle? Oh, we're like 1 mile away. We're not getting any type of marker beacons on this one. We would have had it by now. I think we got a good descent going on here. I mean, we're a little high according to the glide slope, but visually it looks okay. There we go. Go ahead and get our flaps up here. They're nice and landed. Looks like there is a fuel box right over there. Come on. Ah, this has taxiways. They're kind of like drawn out, but it's like trying to get rid of that thing. There we go. Okay, so the taxiway was around here somewhere. Okay, yeah, see it. So in this direction. See, back in this day, it didn't have paved aprons and stuff. All they had was lines out in the grass. Now, the only thing we pave around here is the runways. I'd have to say, though, with all the airplanes that come here onto the airport and drive on the grass, they do a really good job on keeping up the lawn. You can't even tell that planes have been, you know, running across this thing. Right on the fuel box. Try to stay within the taxi lines here. We have to pretend that we're on the taxi tarmac, whatever you want to call it. See, imagination. Got to use your imagination. And we are here. I'll go and turn that off. Okay, well, welcome to Moline. We're at Quad City International Airport. A little bit of a lengthy flight there because we went to Galesburg first and then went to Quad City after that. And we've definitely been able to show that the SubLogic map is incorrect when it comes to the placement of the Quad City Airport and the Moline VOR. It's got the VOR situated north of the airport, and it's actually the other way around. Well, actually, you know what? Let's pull this up. I'm curious. Never really thought about looking at it. But let's take a look at this on an actual chart. Maybe they just don't have it in the programmed in the scenery correctly. Okay. Yep, I found the answer. Take a look at this. Okay, here is an actual flight map. Check this out. Right here is Moline. Do you see where it's at? Sitting right here. Right there is the airport. Now, let's pull the SubLogic map right over here. And boom. See that? There's the airport. There's the VOR. It's backwards. They don't have it in the right spot. So, in case you're flying in this area on Flight Simulator 2 or 3, or if you happen to be using this on 4, oh, I wonder if it's like this on the USA East map. Okay, well, I got it upside down here. So for like something I can use this with like ATP or Flight Simulator 4, I'm curious if... No, they have it correct on here. They actually do have it correct on here. That's kind of funny. Let me see if I can put this up here so that way you can see it. Right there where my finger's at. So There is Moline right there. And there is Quad City. So on the USA East, they have it correct. But on the old scenery disk maps, they don't. It's mixed. It should be the other way around. So some interesting information, I think. So I hope you found that useful or interesting, and I hope you enjoyed the flight. If any of the above, hey, go ahead and leave a like, a thumbs up. That would help me out on the channel and the video and other viewers like yourself, so that way they know that this video's out here, and that way they can come check it out too. And subscribing and being a part of our KILR Nation, our KILR community, help us grow. Help us grow. We're a cool community here. We take it easy. We lay back. We take it easy. And then notification bell. Hey man, that's for you, not for anyone else. Doesn't do me anything. Doesn't do anyone else anything. That's for you. You ring that bell and it's for you, so that way you know when the next video is uploaded to this channel. I do all kinds of videos, getting all kinds of stuff ready and prepared to get something out every week. My goal is to get something out every day. And so those notifications will let you know when something's uploaded, and we'll also let you know when the next episode comes up on Flight Simulator 3, or maybe another flight simulator that you're interested in. So be sure to ring that notification bell, so that way you you're getting notified of the videos that are being uploaded. But hey, other than that, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for watching and hanging with me, and I will see you on the next leg of our journey.